Welcome back. You're here with us on Times Now, and our focus continues to be on the Galwan Valley face-off that happened, in which 20 Indian soldiers were martyred. Now we are being told that US intel assessment says 35 PLA men got killed as well. According to a US intel assessment, all of the casualties were from the use of batons and knives and from falls from the steep topography. Pradeep Dutta joining us on the broadcast for more on this. Pradeep, give us more details, because China officially has been refraining from giving any number as far as the casualty count is concerned.
So China was not expecting that India will be giving them back, because earlier they had always seen that India had been trying to play safe, as Maruf Raza was saying earlier. But now India started giving them back, and this was a big surprise for China. And they've already lost, in fact, as far as Indian estimate is concerned, 43 casualties from Chinese side. But so far as United States is concerned, as per their intel inputs, there are 35 people have died. But that clearly indicates that India is not going to back off from that area, come what may be there. Already the message has been sent loud and clear by Ministry of External Affairs. We have seen that earlier the policy used to be that India was always trying to brush things under the carpet, and that's one of the reasons that China got encouraged and emboldened to an extent that every year China kept on nibbling Indian land. And land grabber China was occupying land, and India was not doing anything in this regard. But now I think the message to the commanders on the ground is quite clear, that at any cost you have to ensure that China is not going to occupy Indian territory. That is one of the reasons that India is trying to deal with this matter, both militarily as well as a diplomatic way. Reason being that Galwan Valley is really very important. It's not only about Galwan Valley. What actually China is trying to do? One, China is trying to prevent India to have an eye on Kashgar-Lhasa highway, because China feels threatened that once India will be having the bridges and the road constructed in that area, they will be having a control over the situation. And by controlling this area and many of the heights which have already been occupied by China, what China is trying to do? China is basically trying to have depth in the Karakoram Pass. In coming days, they will try to, in fact, have a control over the Siachen also, which India very well understands. In fact, a few days back, Chief of Army Staff General Narwane also hinted about that. This is a wedge where, in fact, there is possibility of Pakistan as well as the Chinese army to collude. So they are keeping an eye on that aspect also. It is with this intent they are trying to ensure that at any cost they have to make China disengage in that area, and China to go back to their respective posts.
Pradeep, I'm just interrupting you there. Please stay on with us. My colleague Pranesh is also now joining us on the broadcast. Pranesh, good morning. You know, this silence of China on the casualty count is clearly raising questions.
The way China operates, Hina, we all know how Beijing goes about these things, but this is just confirmation of the claims that the Indian army and people here in the security establishment have been making. This is a strategic affairs expert, Paul D. Shinkman, and look what he says. He says the meeting between troops from India and China grew tense and resulted in a physical confrontation. We know this. According to a US intel assessment, all of the casualties were from the use of batons and knives and from falls from the steep topography. We've reported this on Times Now, and this is the report that he is quoting. According to this report, there have been 35 casualties, at least 35 casualties on the Chinese side. Something that our forces here have claimed, but a fact that Beijing has been in denial. In fact, it has been tight-lipped, if I can put it that way. Let me quickly read this. It says dozens of troops from India and China were reportedly killed in a dispute along a contested area of their shared border, the first bloody clash between the two countries in decades, and an event with the potential to spark even more violence. And then it goes on to say that American intelligence believes 35 Chinese troops died, including one senior officer. A source familiar with that assessment tells US News. The incident took place during a meeting in the mountainous region between the two sides, both of which had agreed to disarm to determine how the two militaries would safely withdraw their presence from the region. Now, our assessment is that there have been more than 43 casualties on the Chinese side, and then this report talks about that also. The sources who spoke with the Times said 43 Chinese troops died in the fighting. Hina.
Right. Clearly, this is raising questions, and we'll see if we get any response from Beijing on this today. Thank you very much, both of you, Pranesh as well as Pradeep, for joining us with all of those details. We'll slip into another short break. More news and updates on the other side.